This is the business leaders panel. This is the founders of the Toilet Board Coalition, our corporate members, and a selection of small and medium-sized businesses that have been part of the Toilet Board Coalition's Accelerator program and are developing partnerships for scale together with large corporations. Can I invite you to the stage, please? Nazir, don't be shy. Come next to me. Are you afraid that if you're close to the moderator, you'll have to, be called upon more? Welcome. So, when I talk about the Toilet Board Coalition and meeting various organizations, spreading the word of the opportunity of the sanitation economy, almost everyone asks, what are businesses actually doing? and so we wanted to start this summit with telling you what businesses are actually doing, and they're going to tell you that. But they also ask, are businesses really investing? Is this really a business opportunity, or is this, just philanthropy and something that businesses feel that they should do? So I also want the panel to address that question. How are you seeing the sanitation economy business opportunities as core business? And what do you see for the future in terms of your investments? So I'd like to start with Erin McCusker from LIXIL.
I was thinking we would go in order, so I wasn't prepared for that. Well, welcome and thank you. I think it's an exciting start to the morning, particularly after a great kickoff event last night where we heard from many of the leaders and the sponsors of this great event. So for LIXIL, I think we are a global manufacturer and producer of housing, sanitary, bathroom, and water technologies. So when we think about our global portfolio of products, it's really about improving everyday life for everyone everywhere. And Sato is just one of the brands in a very broad spectrum of brands that is trying to focus on improving access to basic sanitation. So one piece of that overall sanitation picture. And I think for us, maybe just to come right to your question, Sato is a social business, but LIXIL overall is a major conglomerate of several commercial businesses, purely commercial. And I think for us, we try and really think about those as a part of a whole. So Sato, while being a social business, we have to be a business to be sustainable, to be able to exist in the long term and to be able to grow. And I think Rajiv spoke about this brilliantly last night, that we have to, while focus and our core business objective is increasing access and innovating and continuing to provide new solutions, we have to do that in a way that ultimately will be break even or produce profits that we can reinvest in the business if we're going to be able to stick around and do that over a longer period of time. So for us, while we're continuing to innovate, we're really driving and seeking towards a sustainable business model for the Sato brand. LIXIL's really committed to investing in that over the long term, and it's not purely a philanthropic play. The growth in this market, the access to basic sanitation, we believe is a growth market. I think the business solutions and the business economic opportunity that was just described by our last panel really emphasized that. And for us, we're only one piece of the puzzle, and I think then where businesses can see further opportunities in partnership. We're getting people into the circular economy, into the ladder, but it's up to other businesses and partnerships to really make use of that resource that then can be generated by increasing access.
Thanks, Erin. So if I'm not wrong, Sato has sold 2 million units globally. This is, that million plus opportunity that we were talking about and starting to see the benefits of that. LIXIL and Sato are a great example. And I think the world was a bit shocked when a luxury sanitary ware company started to produce what I believe is a $5 toilet for low-income communities. But, applying that business innovation, that has been applied for luxury products to products for everyone is exactly the type of engagement we're looking for from across businesses and sectors.
That's right, Cheryl, and I think we just recently announced actually we've hit 3 million toilets and pans sold to date, which we estimate to have reached 15 million people.
Thank you, Erin. I'd next like to move to Eric Lesueur. And by the way, Erin is our Toilet Board Coalition chair, newly elected in September. So thank you very much, Erin. And I'd like to also move to our newly elected vice chair of the Toilet Board Coalition, Eric Lesueur from VEOLIA. VEOLIA joined the Toilet Board Coalition 2 years ago now, and really, the businesses of the Toilet Board Coalition starting in sanitary ware and the toilet economy, and so VEOLIA was really the first heavy hitter in circular economy that came to the Toilet Board. Can you talk about the opportunities that you started to see in the approaches of the Toilet Board and the opportunities that you see in circular sanitation?
Thank you very much, Cheryl. First of all, thank you to organize this wonderful meeting. It starts very, very well, Cheryl. I think there is a huge expectations from everyone in the room, and the atmosphere is already very great, so thanks. Happy to be here. What I just wanted to start with, maybe a few words about where we come from. VEOLIA is one leader in drinking water and sanitation around the world. We provide sanitation services to something like 67 million inhabitants. We are running something like 3,000 sanitation plants around the world. So it's a big story. Everything we're doing in drinking water and sanitation is based on the public-private partnership business model. That means that we organize the investment together with the local authorities. We generally do not finance the infrastructures, but we operate the service and, of course, finance the maintenance and everything. This business model was started in 1853 in the city of Lyon in France, and the idea was really to bring health to the cities. In the middle of the 19th century in Europe and in France in particular, there are a lot of problems with cholera, with all types of diseases like that, and a big expansion of cities based on a very huge economical surge in the 19th century. And the cities needed a partner to accompany that development, providing health to the inhabitants. Since then, we have been doing this job all around the world, but we are facing new realities. As you mentioned, Cheryl, a lot of people in the world cannot have access to decent sanitation facilities or sanitation services. One major reason for that is the extraordinary surge of informal habitat. It's impossible to consider cities in the world today as a global package of cities being modernized every day the same way, at the same pace. It's wrong. A lot of cities in the world have been developing a very important part of informal habitat in which we have to find solutions. So for us, traditional public and private partnership with financing of big infrastructures for informal habitat doesn't make sense, doesn't work. For one basic reason, that in informal habitat you do not have any real estate. Legally, it's impossible to know where you are, where you can invest, where you can put the infrastructures. On top of that, the techniques are very difficult. At the end of the day, you have two solutions. You can totally destroy the informal habitat, the slums, and rebuild something. To tell you the truth, and you all know that it doesn't work, it's impossible to do that right now. Now, let us face realities. We have to find solutions for this type of habitats and gradually to upgrade this habitat in which a huge part of humanity lives so that they can live properly. And the good news is that you can do it with probably very profitable business models. And that's what TBC stands for. How you can bring value out of a terrible problem. And we believe this is very important and it is feasible. You have to think differently to see the problem otherwise. And I think the cohort of innovators that are in the room today and the podium as well, bringing new solutions, innovative solutions, which are very impressive and very positive for the future. We are talking of totally private business models, where you bring value, as Cheryl said, at what you are producing. That's very positive. The only thing that we'll have to find a new way of building partnership with the public sector by doing purely private business in this sector. That's a very thrilling experience.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Well, you know, another area that cuts across the sanitation sector is smell. And we have a company here that specializes in smell. But you know, I think it was also a surprise to probably the business community when FIRMENICH, a global leader in flavorings and fragrances, got involved in the toilet economy. Can you talk about the business opportunity that FIRMENICH sees in the sanitation economy, Barry?
Thank you, Cheryl, and good morning, everybody. So as Cheryl mentioned, FIRMENICH is one of the leading company in fragrances and flavors. So when we decided to join the toilet board, the business case was not exactly clear for everybody at home, you know, thinking that we make some of the perfumes you're buying at the duty free at the airport, all the way to talking toilets. People were a little bit shocked. But I think it created a shock that made sanitation transforming our company internally. We have a full sanitation community, people who have been engaging from research, science, people who have been working with the Gates Foundation of identifying the code of malodor, realizing that actually malodor across the world is 3 molecules. There's no specificity if you are in India or in Africa or in China. So that was a first discovery, and being able to go all the way to understanding how to block malodors and how to integrate them into product innovation, all the way to understanding new business models, to understanding how consumers feel about malodor. But what I want to share with you is the most important discovery of all wasn't really about science. It was really about discovering that malodor is a stigma of poverty. Malodor excludes people out of society because they smell bad, it's hard for them to integrate in society and finding a job every day. But worse than that, when a space smells bad, people are avoiding that space. So when a toilet smells bad, people don't use it and they don't change their behavior. And that's really the reason why the Gates Foundation got involved with us 5 or 6 years ago. I think you can see that in the last Netflix Bill Gates documentary, where Bill is saying, you know, I told them those toilets have to have a light, they have to smell good, and they have to be clean. And so that's why we got engaged in this journey, saying, well, we will be the software of the toilet economy. We will be the Intel inside. We're here to help people change their behavior, change their feelings about the sanitation experience. So first, it's all about basically scaling up the cleaning toilet economy, the cleaning sanitation, and working with our partners around the world. So in terms of business, today we have solutions on the market in South Africa and in Bangladesh, and we're really looking for more. But for us, even beyond working with the brands of our clients, is really making sure that those solutions will be available in the products that are cleaning the public toilets everywhere. So making sure that any detergent that governments are going to buy will have the malodor technology inside. So first, it's all about behavior change, and it's all about also transforming the way we work in our own company. So just quickly telling you that we have people in the finance department at FIRMENICH working with the toilet board. We have HR people. We have people who are working on consumer insight, on product development, all the way to the people driving our human rights campaign and on gender equality, because toilet, indeed, we'll talk about that tomorrow, is all about supporting women and giving them the right to choose to use a clean and nice smelly toilet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. I think as Barry just mentioned, this is a really inspiring example that we would love to see spread. Businesses really thinking about the expertise that they have to lend to many global issues, and we're very happy that FIRMENICH is lending it to the sanitation economy. But there's expertise beyond their core competencies of the business, just in business operations, that are really important for the building of this ecosystem as well. And I just introduced very briefly earlier, but we're going to have quite a large workshop on this tomorrow on this 5-star public toilet model, and I will bet you that on TripAdvisor, if a toilet is smelly, it's not getting the 5 stars. So this is a really critical component of the type of toilet that we want to put out into the world, as the minimum standard for toilets that should be available to all. Thank you, Barry. I'd like to move now to Kimberly Clark. And Kimberly Clark, you probably know for their puppies. Rishi and I were talking about this earlier. We all love the puppies. But beyond puppies, why is Kimberly Clark involved in the sanitation economy? You clearly have products, for the space of the bathroom. But how are you seeing the future in these economies, Rishi, in addressing the global sanitation crisis through your business?
Absolutely. So first of all, really excited to be here along with my colleagues Erin and Pete, and it's always good to come to India, and this is a fantastic show. Kimberly Clark's been privileged to be one of the founding members of the DBC along with some of the colleagues here, and it is pretty impressive, and I think a lot of us in this room should be very proud of the accomplishments so far and the ambition we've laid down. So congrats to you, Cheryl, and the team. For us at Kimberly Clark, I think it was a no-brainer to be associated with Toilet Board Coalition. We're a company whose mission is all about leading the world in essentials for a better life. We say with equal access to all with zero waste. What this means is that we're in the business of really hygiene and health and sanitation, but above all, we're also in the business of improving human dignity. Through our products, which some of you might have experienced across different parts of the world. We've got a Huggies brand which takes care of moms and babies. Kotex is a leading brand of femme hygiene products. We're the global market leaders in the bathroom tissue business, and then we have the adult incontinence business. So a lot of like I said, products that contribute to health and hygiene, but more importantly, products that really kind of restore human dignity at its best. And what really enticed us about TBC is while the conversation on sanitation is pretty prevalent, the unique approach TBC does, and just to paraphrase a simple thing like how do we transform it from an unaffordable public cost to an untapped business opportunity. The simplicity of the sanitation economy model, the toilet economy, the smart sanitation economy, as well as the circular economy, gives us a nice framework. And then above all, in order to really kind of prove this out, the creation of the mentorship, I think there was a quote from Pascal up there, we need an army of entrepreneurs, which is so very true. So a lot of you people in this room are going to be a key holder of a piece of a puzzle, which we all have to contribute to build the bigger picture. So pretty excited to be partners here. From a Kimberly Clark perspective, like you alluded, in addition to the puppies, which we're pretty proud of on our bath tissue in certain parts of the world, we have some great understanding and expertise in terms of the categories of toileting, of femme hygiene, the science of what do these products do, the disposability, etc. But at the same time, complementing it with a lot of entrepreneurs and the work TBC does to understand and truly get a feeling for the bottom of the pyramid and the last mile is extremely important. Like every day, nearly 2 billion people around the world use our products, but then there are 7.7 billion people in the world, and it's just 2.5 billion people who don't have access to sanitation is a huge opportunity for us as a business as well. So I think just amalgamating the huge learning about the category and the consumer and some of the drivers, social and technical, coupled with the access that the accelerators and this model can provide, is a huge opportunity. The last thing I will say is what we're also very excited about is the journey that started as a sanitation journey is now seamlessly included menstrual health management. Because once you start building safe, clean, hygienic toilets, that also serves as a safe haven for young girls and women to manage their menstrual health. And we all know, and we'll talk a lot more about this tomorrow, the implication, the social, the economic implication of women being empowered to manage their menstrual health in terms of they stay at school longer, they get at workforce longer. So in addition to just a very rewarding moral work, I think it's also the financial aspect that we're pretty excited about. And I'll conclude by saying, winning in sanitation is a team sport. Nobody here can do it by themselves, but I think collectively we can all come together and create a future that we'll all be pretty proud of.
Thank you, Rishi. I think as Rishi mentioned, the increased focus on women and girls in sanitation, but from the business perspective of really business solutions by women for women. We have a number of women entrepreneurs in the room here today, and we'll get to hear from them throughout this week. And they really are different solutions. The way women see sanitation is very different than men, and I think the opportunity to start to uncover some of those new opportunities, how women think about sanitation brings new insights and new innovations to the sector that can benefit millions. So we have a few hackathon sessions about that throughout this week. Thanks, Rishi. I'd now like to go to Unilever, and we had Madhu Rao speaking last night at the dinner about really the journey of Unilever in the space of sanitation and some of the original thinking, behind the Toilet Board Coalition concept. And we at the Secretariat, if I may, Madhu, like to think of Unilever in the work, as an octopus with many tentacles. Unilever has been able to sort of look at the strategic opportunities of sanitation, and start to build the tentacles around it. And I wonder if you might talk about that, Madhu, in particular, framing it with the case of the Suvidha Center here in Mumbai. And I think this is a great example of how large businesses are thinking about strategic business opportunities.
Thank you very much. Let me first start by wishing everybody a great World Toilet Day. A moment for us to reflect on how privileged we all are. That right from the morning we've had access to a shower, a toilet, clean, safe drinking water. And it's also a moment for us to think about how we can contribute to make the less privileged also to be the same as us. So a call for action moment for us. Talking about Unilever, it's very much part of our DNA and our heritage to drive purposeful and sustainable businesses across the world. And that's our model really. We do believe that if we have purpose at the heart of everything that we do, then the financial results will follow. And we want to do it in a sustainable way. And if you look at the magnitude of the problem that the world is facing, whether it is about the sanitation crisis, or whether it is about the death of children who are under 5, or the school dropout rate of young girls, it all links back to how brands can contribute, how we can evolve business models. So Lifebuoy today has reached over 1 billion citizens across the world and has contributed significantly to the drop in child mortality rates. Domestos is a toilet care brand and has impacted over 16 million school kids by providing access to safe sanitation, improving school retention rates, improving the quality of life for young girls, and impacting communities positively. So all this has strengthened the conviction that we have as an organization. As Rishi also said, it's a team sport. We cannot win by just by driving this individually, and we need a platform to bring like-minded individuals, entrepreneurs, organizations together. And that's how the TBC was born, along with a number of co-founders. What exactly are we trying to do here? We are trying to create a platform of expertise and bringing stakeholders together. And when we talk about expertise, it is really to empower the entrepreneurs and the governments and the investors to come together and provide the solutions. In that context, the thinking has evolved thanks to what the TBC has done and to the drive that Cheryl and the team have brought in, where we are now talking about our vision for 2025 for TBC on a number of different sectors and also on a number of different planes in which we can create a sustainable business out of toilet resources. In that context, a few learnings from UNILEVER and the Suvidha Center that Cheryl talked about. We are truly fortunate that we have a cluster of brands that can impact consumers at a number of levels. And that was the thinking behind the Suvidha Center. What exactly is this? It is a multi-facility center for the urban slums and was started in Mumbai with participation and active help from the municipality of Mumbai, who gave us access to land, which is a scarce commodity. So we built a brick and mortar center that offered a number of facilities to the people who are starved of these facilities. And these range from a shower facility, a toilet facility, drinking water, laundry services, and all brought together, and hand washing facility, all brought together under one roof. I do believe this is the way in which our sanitation economy can grow in the future, because we have over 1,500 households paying and participating in using these facilities. You will hear more about the details of this over the next couple of days, but it represents a sustainable model, because this is business at its best when purpose, brands, and the sustainability come together. So we started with one facility in Ghatkopar in Mumbai. We've started another one now, and our plans are to expand to more, because it makes business sense. The consumer pays for the facility and the experience is good. We are also getting, in a small way, a rating of these facilities, and only when there is repeat buying, as we say in consumer language, the consumer appreciates the value that they get out of it and they come back. I'm happy to report that there is a very high level of repeat trade, because it is offering a cluster of benefits in a way that is delighting the consumers. So I think in a microcosm, the Suvidha Center represents a successful business model that can be scaled up by a number of the entrepreneurs that we have here for us to think about.
Thank you. Thank you. So what you've just heard from the businesses, the Toilet Board Coalition's founders and corporate leaders, really is a demonstration of leadership. Sanitation has been a difficult issue, and these are the companies that decided to step into the ring and challenge that it can be done differently, and it can be done differently and benefit the business. Leadership is more leadership daily basis at the Secretariat, is these businesses challenging their colleagues within their businesses to really think differently about how their expertise can be unleashed on sanitation, and how sanitation can also, thought of in new ways of the sanitation economy, can benefit their businesses in new ways. So I encourage you, if you're a global business in the room, just learning about the sanitation economy, to talk to these folks. A lot of learning here, a lot of leadership, and we need more of you. The next group we're going to go to is another group of leaders that have been extremely courageous. These are the guys that had an idea and decided to implement it in difficult circumstances. We have three of them on the stage. Of course, there are many more of you in the audience. But we've been working together with these three companies through the Accelerator program, and really the Accelerator program is about corporate partnership. And so I'd like to call on David Auerbach from SANERGY. SANERGY is famous in the sanitation sector now, one of the longest standing sanitation businesses operating in Kenya with a very unique model. And David, can you tell us a little bit about why you took the leap into sanitation, what you found, and where you're going in the future?
Great. Good morning, everybody. Happy World Toilet Day to you all. My name is David Auerbach. I'm one of the co-founders of SANERGY, which, as Cheryl said, based in Nairobi, Kenya, where we've been since 2011, so about 8 years now, fully operational there. Yeah, I mean, we see it in pretty simple terms. Informal settlements have about 1 billion people living there today, and by 2050 there will be 3 billion people living there. That is both a urgent challenge, but also a clear business opportunity too. And of those billion people, pick any city that you're going to go to in the developing world, and 70% are still effectively living in their waste. And so as we thought about what solutions you could come up with, access is not enough. You can't just build toilets. If we just built toilets, we'd be done, I think. And so you need to manage where the waste goes. And so the answer has always been water-based sewer systems. So beautiful, such a wonderful idea. But the financing reality of that is just straight up implausible. The best research on this, which has been done for Dakar, Senegal, shows that it would cost $56 per person per year over 20 years, including CapEx and OpEx. This is a low number. In developed cities, we spend well more than $200 per person per year. And yet, in Kenya, our sanitation budget last year, the government's, was $2 per person per year. The math does not add up. Kenya, over the next 10 years, is one of the most progressive policies in all of the developing world, and it's going to get up to about $12 per person per year, right? And so we cannot look at water-based sewer systems as the answer, and so we need to actually think about other ways to do this. And this was the fundamental insight for why we started SANERGY. Where could you go to make sure that the costs were being covered? And the answer has been, first of all, creating non-sewered sanitation solutions. Predominantly what we do is called container-based sanitation. So this is very different from your standard pits or anything like that. These are cartridges where waste is being captured in. They're waterless, they're eco-friendly. And we've built a network where we work with community members, where they invest in these toilets. They lease them on an ongoing basis. They enter into a franchise partnership with us. They're paying partial cost to be able to serve their communities, both through entrepreneurs and through landlords who are providing it into residential areas to serve people 24/7 where they're living. We then guarantee the safe collection of the waste on a daily basis by hiring people from the community, providing them with training, equipment, health insurance, inoculations. We take the waste out of the community, and that's where, and aggregate it at a large processing plant where we're converting it into two end products. First, we're converting it into insect-based animal feed. So I brought here from Kenya our maggots. And these maggots are 40 to 50% protein, and all they do is eat sanitation waste and organic waste. This is really, really valuable in Kenya and other fast-growing developing countries where as people get wealthier, they're buying more livestock, they're buying more chickens, they're buying more pork, buying more fish. And we need a way to feed them. And in Kenya right now, you actually import animal feeds. Sometimes they even use like higher grade tunas as an animal feed, which is just a total waste of money. Plus you have to import it very long distances to feed chickens fish, which chickens don't naturally eat. And so this is what we're developing this, and then we're also, from this you get a residue which you can turn into an organic fertilizer. In Kenya and other places, organic fertilizer is really, really important for climate resilient solutions to agriculture. It's important because it restores the soil structure, it helps retain water, it helps retain nutrients. We've been highly dependent on chemical fertilizers, which frankly do the job in the short term, but in the long term deplete the soil of its nutrients. What we found with both of these cases is that with the fertilizer, you see increase in crop yields of 30%, and with the insect-based animal feed, chickens are getting 30% fatter and heavier. What this means is that farmers, which is 70 to 80% of the Kenyan job economy, are being able to make greater incomes. And so where we are right now is that we're serving about 120,000 people with safe sanitation, the lowest income populations within Kenya, or within urban Kenya, and then processing about 12 to 15,000 tons of waste a year. in converting this all and ending up with a complete zero waste solution and selling all of the end products.
Thank you. Thank you, David. And of course, everybody will want to get a look at that product after you leave the stage.
You did too, if you'd like.
I'd next like to move to Nazir Pandor, the CEO of Live Clean in Zambia. And as we mentioned before, I think some of the really interesting models coming out of our exploration over the past few years have been these new consumer spaces evolving around public toilets. And Live Clean has a pretty complex one, and complex in a good way, in that you're offering a lot to these communities. Can you talk about the model of Live Clean and the opportunities that you're seeing in Zambia?
Thank you, Cheryl, and happy World Day to everybody. Just to talk about Live Clean, but before I talk about that, how completely honored I am to be here and learning from the different companies that are here. It makes me completely proud, and to be able to learn from all of you would be great for me over the next few days. To talk about Live Clean, it's a company that started in 2016, and what we do is we provide fee-paying toilets for public use in a containerized system and a closed loop. And when we started the company, it was pretty much just to provide toilets for people to use. And of course, the motivation behind it is pretty simple. You want to solve a sanitation problem. You want to solve a problem that so many people do not have access to toilets, public toilets, when they're out there in the markets or out there in towns, in the cities that they operate or that they have businesses. We just do not have facilities that are good enough for people to use. This is where Live Clean stepped in. But as we continued to operate, we started to see that just being a wash company did not cut it financially. I think David talked about that earlier. So what we started to do is what we coined in Live Clean as a market enabler. And what that means is we start to incorporate different aspects into our product to make it a bit more diversified. And it's actually really cool to see some of the folks that we've worked with FIRMENICH and UNILEVER, because we've incorporated those products into our model. So what we do is we provide different systems. We provide sanitation pads for women to use. We provide safe drinking water. We provide hygiene products, cleaning products. So working with these different things makes us to have the ability to say our product just is not a toilet. Our product is an experience, because being able to use a toilet, something that we are blessed with every day. I think Madhu talked about that, how we should understand how blessed we are to be at home and have clean water, a toilet to use. A lot of people do not have that. But again, when they come to the market and have the difficulty of finding different products, we want to be that one-stop shop for them to say, hey, we have a toilet here, but for women, you can be safe to use this product. You can come here with whether it's your babies or your kids, and have a safe place to use. And you can be here the whole day. And look, we have sanitation pads for you. Look, we have cleaning products for you. Look, we have safe drinking water for you. And what we're trying to do is to really scale our business and to really get Live Clean to a point where we're sustainable, to continue to break even per site. Right now we have 48 toilets that we have over 3 sites across the city in Lusaka, Zambia. And we're planning to continue growing that exponentially over the next year and few years moving forward. So that's what makes me, I guess, happy being here, is to continue to learn, because I'll be very honest with you, we're not experts in everything. We do not know so much about the sanitation industry, but being here, I get to learn so many people, and seeing that, hey, some of the things that we do not know, how can we incorporate that? How can we make Zambia into this leader of global sanitation and say, hey, look at Zambia, look at what we do. We have these products and we want to move forward with them. So the challenges speak for themselves. It's a lot for us to tackle, of course, and we have a lot of work to do. But with continued collaboration with so many of the people on stage and so many of you out there, we hope that we can tackle that problem. And we felt at Live Clean that being a market enabler, diversifying the product of a toilet, to make it financially sustainable, is the way forward to have a successful business in sanitation. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nazir. And so now I'd like to go to Biomass Controls, Myles Elledge. And Biomass Controls is really innovating in the smart sanitation economy. From your initial product, already smart, but now to work with the European Space Agency and Woodco. Can you talk to us about again how you started to see these new opportunities in applying digital applications to sanitation.
Great, thank you, Cheryl. It's a pleasure to be here, and we are very proud and have benefited greatly from our association with TBC. Been a great network and support for our young business. So we're one of those entrepreneurs at the bleeding edge of the sanitation economy. Our core niche and expertise is around thermal treatment for organic waste. We're really motivated to address the big problem of waste treatment. You've seen the statistics as you look around in many cities of the world. Even as we make progress on access to toilets, we are not keeping up with sanitation. And there's a huge backlog of waste that needs to be treated, whether it's from pit latrines or septic tanks, or we also see a market in secondary sludge at traditional wastewater treatment plants. So our core technology is a thermal treatment approach using pyrolysis to treat organic waste. We have several systems operating in India in 3 different cities where we're treating on a daily basis septage and pit latrine waste that comes in on a vacuum truck. We also have an installation in Alaska, a very cold, challenging climate to work in, but we've proven the technology can work there in a small village treating dry sanitation waste. We also have some research work going on around menstrual hygiene, safe disposal, and also an adjacency market in agricultural manure treatment in the United States, and also around food waste. And there's also a big market there in terms of looking at methane reduction and keeping the food waste out of the landfills. So the core technology is taking in these organic wastes. We're able to be net positive on energy, so we're generating energy from the combustion process. And then we also have a valuable byproduct at the end of the process in the means of a biochar product. And this product can be used as a soil supplement, valuable in agriculture, and also as a medium for filtration. So we're excited to push ahead.
So I'd like to now focus on the conversations that you want to have this week with this room on what we need to scale up the sanitation economy. To share a perspective on what we need, but also the conversations that you want to have. Nazir, can we start with you?
Well, some of the conversations that we definitely want to have at keen on is the different type of investments that people are willing to invest in companies such as ours, and providing different avenues for us to get into so that we can continue the model that we have, but different models around Zambia. And looking around the conversations of that is also learning from different people and saying, what are the other aspects of the industry that we need to see? What are the things that you have in your economies, in your sanitation economies, and something that we can incorporate in ours, some of the things that you can learn from us. But the conversations are around how can we scale, because we believe to scale up a business like this, we need a lot of different avenues of funding, whether it's from grants to equity to debt, but we need to incorporate these things so that we can scale up the business even more, because as I said earlier, the wash is just not going to cut it just being by itself.
Thank you, Nazir. And next over to you. We're going to go down the line here just so you can be prepared. So, Eric, on scaling up circular sanitation, and I have to say to the audience that VEOLIA has been really tough on us, really challenging on this aspect of scale. It has to be at least 1 million, or we don't call it scale. So come on, tell us your perspective. How do we get there? Your experience in doing this, and what conversations do you want to have this week?
Well, we expect a lot of conversation with the cohort, of course, of startups. I think one of the greatest value of TBC is to have this mix of people around the table, including the people in the field of finance. We've mentioned that we need innovation for business models. We need innovation for the new type of public-private relationship around sanitation, but we also need innovation for investment, financial tools, and I think there are quite a lot of things on the table, and that will be very useful to have joint discussion between startups, bigger companies, and investors during this week. That's really one major thing, and maybe we should not forget as well that discussing about circular economy, about human waste, is something that is not so easy psychologically, sociologically. It's not like recovering plastic waste or household waste, which is not part of our own body. And I think it would be interesting also during this week to have discussions about what are the main drivers, but also the main difficulties we could find in this field based on projection of people about drinking water from sanitation reused, and
the carrots we ate last night.
That's important as well.
Thank you very much, Eric. Finance is a key element, and we do have many members of our network of investors as part of the Toilet Board Coalition's Investor Forum here to have those conversations. And what we really believe is that what we're hearing here is perhaps a different valuation of these types of sanitation business models, and really taking the opportunity to understand them and understanding really what the risk valuation really is, and perhaps there is some innovation that we can do in partnership when we have de-risking from different players in the room, and how we can start to put together packages, of financing and growth through these partnerships. So great point, Eric. Over to you, Rishi, on scaling up. What are the conversations that you want to have this week?
So I think if this week our attitude needs to be bold, I think the single outcome needs to be scale. So I think that word will get used again and again. And I think obviously sanitation is a pretty big global challenge. And if you kind of really step back and say, well, there's a lot of good intent, in order to drive action and results, it kind of chunks it down into three parts. First and foremost, having a very simple approach and a framework, which I think the sanitation economy truly lays down. Next up is really finding the true innovators, the true entrepreneurs who are willing to do that, which is why I was extremely encouraged by the cohorts, past, current, and potential future ones. But then the third thing, which is I think the crux of the discussion I'd love to get over the next 2 days, is something that even Eric said, is as we truly understand what are some of the barriers that is preventing these very smart people with great ideas in scaling up. And then from our vantage point, by having the coalition of the right kind of stakeholders, how do we break down those barriers and encourage them and kind of give them a pathway to keep scaling up? Because we need evidence-based for sure. And I think the moment we get 2 or 3, I think it'll kind of really start snowballing. So to me, I think the single biggest thing would be to truly understand what is the specificity of the barriers. Is it finance? Is it technology? Is it management? Is it logistics? Is it government barriers? And I think the more clearly we understand, hopefully collectively we can have a very precise solution to it.
Thank you. Erin, from LIXIL's perspective.
Yes, the importance of scale for us, and I think this was talked about a little bit yesterday, is we have to move from this being project-based and simply an idea to something that people have felt, they've experienced, that people can cite in their communities or in a context that looks like theirs. And I say this is really important because without scale, people can continue to associate talking about toilet, talking about using toilet resources to improve food, to use energy. I think SANERGY, you faced this very early on, until it's like, oh yes, the community next door to me that's doing this, that looks just like my community, is fine. It's not a unique thing, it's not a crazy idea, but the more we can strive for scale, and we can strive for these 1 million examples, which Johanna point to has pushed us on very hard, is, I think it's actually about engaging more people in normalizing the idea that we can use the toilet resources well into the future and in multiple applications. I think just the second piece on scale is also, it's essential for any of these cycles and these economies to work. So you have to have enough people into the system that you can actually take the resources, divide out a little bit for the sensors work, divide out a little bit for this resource. And so without those scale, we're actually not going to be able to really show the potential of the circular economy. And so this week, I would love to really strive for the partnerships. Where are you as your business or you as your community providing a piece of that puzzle? And so that we can start to really see how we can pull the whole value chain together. And I think that will enable us to much more quickly reach a larger scale and then normalize this idea of using these toilet resources and taking advantage of what we have.
Thank you, Erin. Over to you, Madhu.
Okay, I really want to sound positive about what we can do together as a team, because if you see the journey that the TBC has undertaken and what we are seeing today, there are some real breakthroughs that are happening. So let me talk about some of the models that seem to be working, whether it is Nazir's model, whether it is Rajiv's model of the T-Bus. I talked about Suvidha, SANERGY. These are giving us clear directions on what can make a business model work that can be scaled up. So my ask of the gathering here would be over the next 2 days to understand the details and get to the nuts and bolts of what makes these models work, how you can learn, how you can come together. Because as we said, it cannot be solved by one individual or just one entrepreneur. It's about partnerships and coming together. So have discussions and explore those opportunities. So that's on one level. On the other level, we are seeing breakthroughs of a very different kind. Whether it is what Myles talked about, is the feed, fertilizer, fuel economy on the circular part, or what Eric talked about this morning on the forecasting of diseases using the medical science on organic treatment and really understanding the sensory aspect of the resources. Now, these are really, really new ways in which we can look at making breakthroughs in solving the sanitation crisis. So the entrepreneurs, the investors who are there, how can we look at taking these breakthroughs and integrating them into workable business models? Because I believe that when you have models that are working, when you have new avenues like the circular economy and the disease predictions coming in, there is no dearth of funds. The investors are ready to pump money to make things work. And if you show a pathway, then it will happen. So next 2 days is about identifying those pathways.
Thank you, Madhu. Myles.
We need more carrots. So and I think of it in 3 ways. So, we have entrepreneur technologies that are ready. They're really ready to disrupt the market. But to get them into the market, we need some adaptations. We need some policies that actually value reuse or actually permit reuse of these products. And we need standards to ensure quality treatment, not just any treatment, but treatment that actually gets the waste reduction, gets the pathogen killed. And lastly, we need some adaptations in procurement regulations and permitting arrangements. Many local governments are potential clients for us, but we have to move away from the old CapEx model of the big wastewater treatment plant to move into models that enable leasing and service level agreements that promote actually taking in a quantity of waste and ensuring that quality of treatment.
Thank you. Barry.
Yeah, what we have to scale from our point of view, and I think it's really looking at the people who are not in the room today, the users of those solutions. I've been, before being now 10 years in business, I've been working in the public sector on nutrition, and then for a few years with the United Nations. I remember on nutrition, we were talking a lot about, we need social marketing campaigns. We need to explain people why nutrition is important to them. And we know it doesn't work. And it's exactly the same about sanitation. It will not be about explaining why people need to use toilets. We need to make sure they love using toilets. We need to make those toilets sexy. We need to be a toilet cleaner the best job possible that everybody wants to get, that it's a new way to get an income. And I think it's really, not about coming up with all our nice campaigning messages about changing behaviors, but just changing behaviors because people love using a toilet, because people are okay to clean toilets. And I think this will be the key for the scale. And if people don't use the toilets more, we will not have the level of resources that Cheryl was talking about this morning, and the toilet economy is not going to be as big as we hope. So this is the kind of scale we are expecting from the FIRMENICH point of view. And it's also maybe thinking about, you know, have we really pushed all the product innovation we could push when we're thinking about toilet cleaners? Is it really what we have today? Is it maybe something else? I mean, I see a very interesting company in South Africa. They are creating this foam for toilets, and it's called Skip the Flush. And with that foam, you don't need to put water all the time, or you need less and less water. And less water, still your toilets are very clean. So I think maybe have we really pushed all the innovation also on the consumer experience? I don't think so. I think we can do better, and maybe I'd love to hear a conversation this week as well.
Thank you, Barry. David, the final word of the panel. What conversations do you want to have this week?
Sure. So, so first of all, I'm pleased tomorrow, SANERGY and VEOLIA are doing a panel on how to scale to 1 million and how we're thinking about that for Nairobi. I think it's really important to stress that VEOLIA is not just talking and pressuring you; they are walking it too, which is really important. Second, we're beginning to look at other cities, so we're really interested in other cities outside of Nairobi, and so please come talk to me about that, or I will come find you. Third, as Myles just said, I really think, we as a collective group, and especially with such strong corporate influence, can really further the conversation on the legitimization of reused products. They are safe. We all know this, but then we all worry about, worry about everything from the PR of it to, to lingering questions about, is it really safe? And so, how do we further that conversation? And then finally, yesterday I was really lucky to hear the 9 new accelerator companies, and their pitches were just, man, they were so much better than ours was a long time ago. But I do think that we need competition. I think competition is really important, like as a sector, because it drives down costs, right? So on one hand, you have the financing question of like, where are we going to get all this money? But if things become more affordable, that's also another path to sustainability. So I really encourage you to talk to those 9 accelerators and all the other entrepreneurs here. Go in with an open heart and open mind. They're not just after your money, and all of that, but and it's really an important conversations to have.
Thank you, global business leaders. We're looking forward to having those conversations that you've provoked. Please give a hand to our global business leaders. Thank you.